Well, initially officers from our agency, from U.S. Forest Service, U.S. Fish and Wildlife, and North Carolina Wildlife Commission received information that there was illegal wildlife activity taking place, particularly with the black bear population in the Appalachian Mountain area. And that got the interest within our officers to start looking at if there were possible violations, if there was illegal bear baiting, any commercialization of wildlife. And at that point in time, the agencies decided to take some time, look into it, and see if there was any activities going on that warranted further investigation. Well, initially when they got looking into it, we're targeting the black bear population, North Georgia and in North Carolina. They did identify that there were individuals who were providing guide services over baited areas for black bear for a fee in both states. And once this investigation got started, our officers gained the confidence of the individuals that were providing the guide services. The investigation sort of spiderwebbed out into other areas. Not only were they hunting bear illegally, providing guided trips on Forest Service property without permits, but there was also hunting deer at night violations, hunting from the vehicle, hunting from public roads, littering, hunting on closed wildlife management areas. The investigation continued to grow, and more violations were identified by various individuals that were associated with this operation.
This operation was started because of the illegal poaching of black bears. During the operation, we had undercover officers who were hunting with violators in both Georgia and North Carolina. During these hunts, there were a total of 10 black bears that were harvested. 4 of those were in Georgia. During this investigation, undercover officers witnessed several hundred violations that occurred in our state. Currently, we have about 136 arrest warrants for individual counts of violations. There are 8 defendants at this time, and we currently have 6 search warrants that are being executed. Most of the violations that the undercover officers witnessed are misdemeanor violations. In Georgia, misdemeanors are punishable by $1,000 and/or 12 months in jail. However, some of the defendants were witnessed committing federal violations to include the Lacey Act. The punishment for some Lacey Act violations can be a felony. Our undercover officers observed the poachers engaging in acts such as hunting from a motor vehicle, shooting from a public road. These actions endanger the public, property, livestock, and are just unsafe practices in general. When these violators were observed committing these crimes, they had no idea what was past the target that they were shooting at.
It has been a problem in the past. Back in the 1980s, there was a similar operation that occurred called Operation Smoky, where numerous individuals were arrested in Georgia and in North Carolina and Tennessee for bear violations. We've received information over the past couple of years that some of these activities may be occurring again, so that's part of what led the U.S. Forest Service, Georgia, North Carolina, and the U.S. Fish and Wildlife to have an interest in looking back in this again. And with this interest and looking into the possibilities of activities going on, we did determine that there is still some illegal trade that's going on with the bear population. Well, anytime that you have someone who's hunting illegally, whether it's hunting or taking bear over bait, taking over the limit of wildlife, whether it's hunting deer at night, hunting from a public road, anything that directly affects a resource has a direct effect on the hunters. The hunters themselves are the first conservationists. They're the ones, through the purchase of their hunting license, through their purchase of firearms and ammo, which has an excise tax that comes off of that to help support the wildlife programs in our state. it has a direct effect on them. The poachers are actually stealing the wildlife from these individuals who hunt legally. Well, I think Operation Something Bruin is a really good example of how states and federal agencies collaborate and work together. Just because there's a state line does not mean Georgia's not communicating with our sister agencies in adjoining states. You know, with this particular operation, you had U.S. Forest Service, U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, North Carolina Wildlife Commission, and Georgia Department of Natural Resources all working collaboratively together to come to a common end. And information sharing goes on between our agencies on a regular basis. And again, this particular investigation is just a really good example of how information sharing and working together across state lines can help stop poaching, which has a very detrimental effect on our wildlife, no matter what state you're in. The long-term impact of this investigation should be very mindful to individuals that, number one, you have to abide by the bag limits. When it comes to black bear, you can't hunt those over bait. When it comes to other species of wildlife, as far as the hunting deer at night and the other violations that were identified with this investigation, you never know who might be with you while you're out committing those crimes, or you might not be aware who is watching you while you're committing those crimes. And hopefully this will have a long-lasting effect to be a reminder to folks who may have a tendency to poach that we have a lot of different methods within our tool belt whenever we're doing investigations, whether it's a uniform type investigation or it's an undercover type capacity. If you have a poaching incident that's in progress, the best thing to do is call our Turn-In Poachers hotline number, which is 1-800-241-4113. You know, it's the responsibility of every hunter that's out in the field to be our eyes and our ears and let us know what's going on. And for your fastest response, the best thing to do is to call that phone number. If you have information of something that's going on otherwise, and it's not an immediate need for a response, then you can go to our website, georgiawildlife.com, and there's a link there for Turning In Poachers where you can report them anonymously.